Hey, it's Diana. I think we are live now. We're just a couple of minutes late, but they were trimming the tree outside of my window here, and I couldn't hear a thing. So we'll see. I think they're finished. But anyway, so we are talking about supplements today. And I did have a request. And so as I started digging into this, I think we're going to have to bridge this over maybe 2 to 3 sessions. And actually, depending upon your interest, have been in the process of creating a masterclass on supplements because we literally spend billions of dollars every year on supplements. And when I say supplements, I'm including vitamins, probiotics, things like calcium, magnesium, other things like resveratrol, easy for me to say this morning. I don't know, my tongue's not right. But all of these I group together as supplements. And we take supplements for various reasons. We take them because we're not eating right. We take them because we know that we're deficient in certain things because maybe it's a lifestyle issue. Um, there's a whole host, anti-aging, because of heart disease, Alzheimer's. We want our skin to look different, a whole host of reasons why we're taking them. And the first thing that I want to say is that all supplements are not the same. So the way that a supplement is manufactured and the fillers that they put in, so that's the stuff that can kind of, if it's a tablet, bind it together, or a capsule to make it so it flows into the capsule easily, all of those things impact how well your body uses it. And just because it's chemically the same thing doesn't mean that it's going to react the same in your body. So when you see something that says FDA quality, whatever it might be as far as that goes, or FDA approved with FDA testing or any of those kinds of things, all that means is what is in that container is exactly what they say is in there. It has nothing to do with how well your body can use it. And I'm a pharmacist, and so we call that bioavailability. So it doesn't mean that your body can absorb it. It doesn't mean that your body can use it. It just means what's in that tablet or capsule is actually what is in your tablet or capsule is what it says it's in there. So where do we go from there? So looking at the fact that, first of all, you want to check to make sure that it says that because you really want that to be in there. If it doesn't say that, then I would pass on it. Second thing is in looking at if you're taking a supplement, you need to be aware of how does that interact with other medications that I may be taking. For example, if you're taking a medication for thyroid and you're taking a calcium or magnesium supplement, you need to separate those because otherwise the thyroid and the calcium will bind together and it won't be absorbed. Or there are instances, for example, with certain foods like grapefruit and some of the medications that are used to lower your cholesterol level. They will actually make it so there's more cholesterol in your system or more of the medication in your system. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. So really being aware, and pharmacists are great people to ask with regard to that if you're taking prescription medications. So now we've got, okay, we know what it is because we know the FDA says that there's this amount of this drug that's in here or medic or supplement or whatever. We know that it can interact with food or with medications. The third thing I always ask is, why are you taking this? Are you taking this because of a family history? Are you taking this because you feel like you're not eating the way you should? Are you taking this because you're recovering from something? So really get a really good understanding of why it is that you're taking something before you just kind of jump in and say, I'm going to start taking supplements. So really having a great understanding of why it is that you're taking it. There are a few that I recommend for the general population because most people are deficient in these. And one thing to understand is that our food supply is not as rich in nutrients as it used to be. When you compare some of the nutrient profiles from the 1950s to what we have now, in some instances, there's only half of the nutrients in there that were in there before. And it's based upon how rich the soil is, how quickly we grow them, all of those kinds of things. So there might be instances in which you're not able to get the vitamins or the nutrients or the whatever is in the food because it's simply not there in the quantity that it was before. So looking at, okay, so what are reasons why I would take a supplement? For example, if you have um, a vitamin D deficiency. And quite frankly, most of the people in the United States have a vitamin D deficiency. And they also are low in magnesium, and many are low in other trace elements because, again, what's in our food supply. So, how do you decide? Well, there are a couple of ways that you can do it. One is that as part of your annual exam, having certain things checked out. So, for example, I don't do this every year, I do this about every other year. I have my vitamin D level checked. And I want it to be in the middle of the range because my muscles work better and I feel better with it being in the middle of that range. And then I decide base my dosage up or down based upon that. Now, there are certain conditions that make it so that you might want to be a little bit more aware of what that vitamin D level is. And certain people need it in combination with vitamin K. But really, when you think about it, vitamin D is more of a pro hormone. What that means is there are places in your body that need vitamin D in order to work correctly. And those are the major big muscles. So there are lots of the little receptors or the places where the vitamin D is going to act in the thighs and in your glute muscles, basically your derriere muscles. And it needs that in order to work and to work well. So having enough vitamin D in your system, and you can get it with sun exposure. It's really hard because if you're north of Atlanta, you're probably not going to have enough time in the sun. And I live in Minnesota, and in the winter when we have 6 hours of daylight and there's no way I'm exposing skin when it's 20 below, and that's without wind chill. So there are things that we can do in order to make up for that deficiency. A multivitamin is one thing that I recommend, a multivitamin with minerals. And that's because generally, like I said, the food supply is something that we don't really get all of the vitamins that we need. And in our current lifestyle, it's sometimes difficult or challenging to get everything we need from our food. There are also issues with, so I'm eating broccoli. Well, did you know that you get more of the nutrients out of broccoli if you cook it versus eating it raw? And many times, vegetables that are frozen or fruit might actually have more of the vitamins in them than the ones that are fresh. So the example is blueberries. And the blueberries that have the most nutrition are the little teeny tiny ones, not the big fat ones. The reason this is because they wait until right at when they're at peak ripeness to go out and pick them, and then they freeze them instantly so that they have all of the good nutrients and vitamins and yummy tasting stuff in them at their full potential, rather than picking them when they're green, putting them in some place and gassing them, and then letting them ripen up in an artificial manner. Less nutrients that way. So understanding that piece of it as well. The other aspect associated with it is looking at specific diseases or conditions or things that you might have in your family. So going back to the ones that I recommend for everybody is generally vitamin D, a multivitamin with minerals, depending upon how you eat a probiotic, because many of us don't eat kimchi or any kind of fermented foods that are going to naturally give that to us. And then the fourth thing that I always like to recommend is that people have, um, depending upon how well that they sleep, maybe adding magnesium in. So you have a multivitamin, vitamin D. You can have magnesium depending upon how you sleep, but really fish oil. And the fish oil does matter what kind you get, where you get it from. We know the sea is very polluted as far as that's concerned. So making sure that you have a fish oil that has been done a lot of quality testing on it and you really know what's in there. Um, and making sure that it is, fish that's been exposed to cold water, because when they're in the cold water, they develop more of these fats, and these fats are the things that we need. I have specific brands that I like and that I prefer. Some people say, I don't like to take it because it tastes funny. There are some that I recommend that are better than others as far as that's concerned about not having that fishy taste. And then I also have a recommendation for people that are vegan or vegetarian and don't want something fish wise. So that we'll jump into and get into more of those kinds of specifics with the next one. But really, the next aspect that I look at is, what is your family history? And by that, I mean, do you have heart disease? Do you have autoimmune disease? Do you have arthritis? Do you have Alzheimer's? All of these are really important to consider because you may have a genetic predisposition toward having those same things. And it's really important to remember it's a predisposition in almost 90 some percent of the cases. Now, I'll use a situation with Angelina Jolie where she had the BRCA gene in, and we know that 80 plus percent of the women that have that end up with breast cancer. And so that's a little bit different than most of the other situations. But what I will say is, with many of the others, it can be as much as 80 to 90% lifestyle and only maybe 10% or less. And in some cases, I'm reading 2% that is associated with your genetics. So lifestyle makes a big difference. And in that lifestyle is what you eat and the supplements that you take. So for my next video, what I'm going to do is break down certain different conditions or things that are genetically people may be predisposed to have, and then talk about some of the supplements and the things that you can use for those. I originally thought I was going to do this all in one, but there's so much material here. And quite frankly, we as a society are spending billions of dollars every year on things that simply are not helping us. And there is so much that we can do. I've had to focus a lot on anti-aging and how to be healthy as I age. And actually, we think about aging is a breakdown of processes. Why do they break down? A lot of times it's because they don't have the nutrients or the components that they need in order to be able to recycle or to basically repair your body. So this has a huge impact. It changes the quality of your life as far as that's concerned. And again, some caveats. One is that if you're taking prescription medications, some of these can influence this. There are certain situations that if you're on chemos or those kinds of things, you may want to avoid, or you may want to add more supplementation, but that's something definitely to loop back with your team. And we'll go from there. I'm really excited about this. And please, if you have additional questions or things that you want me to cover when I'm going through specific segments about, and I have one person who's contacted me, and there's a group of 3 that will be in our video for tomorrow to really talk about why you would use these, why you wouldn't use these, some of the concerns associated with using them, because that's the other thing is sometimes when you have too much of something, it hides other things that might be underlying. And so really thinking about that piece of it all together. And again, I'm so excited to talk about this, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye for now.